For decades, the Gulf's power has literally come from the ground, oil and gas. But what happens when the entire world decides to go green? Well, for these nations, it's not just some challenge on the horizon. It's a massive, trillion-dollar pivot, and believe me, it's happening right now. So that leads us to this huge question, right? How do the planet's biggest energy producers, the giants of oil and gas, completely reinvent themselves for a sustainable future? The answer, and this might surprise you, isn't just about solar panels and wind turbines. It's really about the money. It's about finance. You see, for the Gulf Cooperation Council, the GCC, this isn't some trend they can choose to ignore. No way. It's a strategic imperative. We're talking about their long-term economic survival. It all hinges on making this one critical shift from black gold to what we now call green capital. And the motivation to get this right, it is huge. We're talking about a green finance opportunity for the GCC that's estimated to be around $2 trillion. Just let that number sink in for a second. That's the prize, the massive incentive that's fueling this whole transformation. Okay, so how exactly do you chase a $2 trillion opportunity? Well, let's open up the new playbook they're using. We're going to dive into what's called the Green Finance Toolkit. These are the specific tools and strategies they're deploying to point all that money in a sustainable direction. All right, at the very core of this whole thing is a concept called sustainable finance. Now, what is that? The European Commission has a pretty good definition. It basically means you stop looking only at profit. Instead, you start considering environmental, social, and governance factors, you've probably heard the term ESG, in every single investment decision. The big idea here is to build an economy that can actually last, for the long haul. Now, it's super easy to get these terms confused, so let's clear it up. Think of it like this. Green finance is like one specific tool in a giant toolbox. Maybe it's the hammer, totally focused on environmental projects. But sustainable finance, that's the entire toolbox. It's a much bigger concept that also includes things like social factors. Is this good for the community? And governance. Is this company run ethically? So what's actually inside this toolbox? Well, you've got your instruments of change. There are things like green bonds. Think of them as special loans just for stuff like wind farms. Then you have social bonds, which might fund things like new schools or hospitals. But there's one instrument in here that is really special, and it gives the Gulf a unique, almost secret advantage. And that special tool is the green sukuk. This is really cool. It's where centuries of tradition meet cutting-edge finance. So a sukuk is an Islamic financial certificate, kind of like a bond. A green sukuk just takes that framework and makes sure the money goes to eco-friendly projects. It's this perfect blend of Islamic ethical principles and today's sustainability goals. Okay, so we know the tools. Now let's see them in action. Because this isn't just happening in theory. Out there, on the ground, there is some serious momentum. You could even call it a friendly, but very real competition between the GCC nations. So yeah, welcome to the Gulf's green race. Let's start with the heavyweight, Saudi Arabia. The real engine behind their pivot is the super ambitious Vision 2030 plan. It's basically a blueprint to remake their entire economy. You've got their sovereign wealth fund just pouring money into massive green projects. And check this out. Their biggest bank just issued a $750 million sustainable sukuk. That's a huge signal. Then you have the UAE, who a lot of people see as a real leader in this space. What makes them stand out? They've got a plan, a really structured long-term plan. It's a national sustainable finance framework that maps everything out, step by step, all the way to 2031. Meanwhile, over in Qatar, the government itself is making some seriously big moves. Just this year, they issued their very first sovereign green bonds for $2.5 billion. I mean, when the government puts that kind of money on the table, it sends a crystal clear message. This is a major national priority, straight from the top. Bahrain is playing it smart. They're not trying to be the biggest, but they are trying to be the most specialized. They're carving out a niche for themselves, aiming to become the hub for Islamic sustainable finance. They're really leaning into that natural advantage we mentioned earlier, and we're already seeing proof with the country's first ever sustainability-linked loan. And let's round out this regional tour with Oman. Right now, they're really focused on building the foundation. They're putting all those crucial first pieces in place, like setting up their own sustainable finance framework just this year. And they're busy forging international partnerships to bring in the money and the know-how for their own green infrastructure projects. Okay, so all this progress sounds amazing, right? But let's be real, a pivot this big is never easy. It's not all smooth sailing. So it's time for a little reality check. What are the actual hurdles they face trying to build a green economy basically from scratch? They are definitely facing some serious headwinds. I mean, just imagine trying to invest across the region when every country has slightly different rules. It's a headache. Then there's the problem of getting good, reliable data on how companies are actually performing on ESG goals. Plus, you have the ever-present risk of greenwashing, when companies just talk a good game. And they have to deal with all of this while managing the colossal task of transitioning away from hydrocarbons. But here's the thing. For every single one of those headwinds, there seems to be a powerful tailwind pushing them forward. I mean, the potential for renewable energy, especially solar, is just off the charts. All those national visions mean there's solid government commitment. And that synergy with Islamic finance, it's not just a nice idea, it's a genuine, core competitive advantage. And let's double-click on that point because it is so important. Why is there such a natural fit? Well, it's because both systems are built on similar ethical principles. Things like taking care of the community, social fairness, and this idea of stewardship, of protecting the environment. This quote from the source material really nails it. That alignment gives them a unique leg up when it comes to creating new products and growing this market. So, when you step back, you see that all the key pieces are actually falling into place. The foundation is there. So now let's look ahead. What does the road to 2030 and beyond look like for the Gulf's green future? So what are the key trends to watch? Let's pull out two from this table that are absolutely critical. First is digitalization. We're talking about using tech like AI and blockchain to bring some serious transparency to this market, which it desperately needs. The second big one is teamwork on the regulatory side. As these countries start to align their rules and create a single playbook, it's going to make investors way more confident and make it much, much harder for anyone to get away with greenwashing. When you boil it all down, the story of sustainable finance in the Gulf is really a story of radical transformation. Yeah, the journey is complicated and the challenges are absolutely real. But the payoff? The potential rewards are just too big to pass up. We're talking about a totally diversified economy, real resilience in the face of climate change, and frankly, a brand new role for the region on the global stage. And all of this leaves us with one final massive question. After a century of powering the world with black gold, can the planet's traditional energy powerhouse pull off this pivot and become the world's next great green finance hub? The race is definitely on.